Hello, everybody. Karen of Karen Shire Coaching here today. And I wanted to tell you a story. I wanted to tell you the story of a mountain almost got me in one just a few weeks back. And anyone that knows me knows that Chris and I love to go hiking in Sedona. And we try to go, we've been going there since 2014 when my aunt and uncle invited us there. And we just fell in love with it. So we try to make our little pilgrimage to Sedona for hiking and good eats and just a relaxing time, usually once a year. And so this trip was a little different for us, though. And like I said, the mountain almost got me, the mountain almost won. So it was it was kind of a crazy time. But and actually this is really the first time I'm telling this story. So really haven't shared this with anyone. And when I think about it, and as I get into this telling you what happened, um, and I think back to it, it wasn't just that moment. It all kind of started, maybe 18 months ahead. I had taken a fall in Grand Rapids. We were just walking around town enjoying Art Prize, and I didn't see a sidewalk kind of came up, and my foot caught on it, and I couldn't catch myself, and I just went down, and I really messed up my left ankle and messed up the tendons and just kind of did the hey, it'll get better kind of thing. Well, I struggled with it for about a year, a little more than a year before this trip. And every time that I would try to work out again, it would get all inflamed. So then I'd take it easy for a while. Hopefully it would heal. And then I'd work out again. And it was just this cycle all year. So kind of started with that. And then let's add a couple of moves. We did a couple of house moves in 2024. And so y'all know you've all moved before and what a treat that is. So we got moved into a house and got there. It wasn't working out for us. It led to a very sedentary lifestyle because it was very noisy. It was right by a highway, and I'm a nature girl. I like to be outside, but it was so loud that you just couldn't spend time outside. And so we've spent a year there feeling like we were just kind of cooped up in the house, and we couldn't sleep because you could hear the traffic noise and all that kind of thing. So we ended up moving, got into a new house in July, and then spent July through October fixing up the new house, trying to sell the old house until we finally moved into the new house, maybe a month or two before this trip. And so it had been a really rough year for us in terms of not being able to work out, not be able to get outside or just get the downtime we needed. And then I was dealing with the this injury stuff. And so anyway, we got to our new house, we got moved in, and lo and behold, we were going to leave for Sedona on Friday. And on Monday, we got a bunch of snow. I went out to get the mail. The snowplow had just went through, and so it was really slick on the road. I ended up falling again. And what I did this time was kind of like the splits. So I basically pulled a muscle from the back of my knee up to my bum, and it was painful. I could barely get myself back to the house. And here we are, and I'm thinking, well, dang, we're gonna go to Sedona to go hiking, and I'm injured again. Anyway, we got through that week. We got to Sedona, and we decided that we'd go out for a hike. We went for kind of a pretty light hike on the first day, and then that was the plan for the week was to do some pretty light hikes. But Sedona hiking compared to Michigan hiking is a world of difference. And if anyone's ever been there, you've got the elevation, you've got much more intense trails. Even the easy trails are probably like a harder trail here where we live currently. And so we use hiking poles. Um, we've got hiking shoes. We've got the right stuff to go hiking. We weren't in the best shape this time, but we had decided we're just going to take some easier trails in Sedona because I wasn't sure how well my leg was going to do and my ankle was going to do and all that. So anyway, we Chris always picks the trails, and so he was picking some fairly easy ones for the area. And so we headed out on this one trail, and we kind of veered off it. The easy trail that I thought we were going to take, I believe it was like the Airy Loop, we ended up veering off and taking another trail, which isn't unusual because it's Sedona and there's like hundreds of trails to go on. Well, about halfway in, we were about a mile and a half in, I would say. And normally that's no problem at all. But this ended up being a particularly difficult trail for me, and I was in a lot of pain. Um, and I said to Chris, I said, well, how much longer? Because I don't pay attention. He picks the trails, he does his little app and does his thing, and I just kind of hike behind him. We kind of call it the person in the back cougar bait, but that's another story for another day. Anyway, so I'm getting, like, hey, I'm in a lot of pain. How much farther are we? And he said, well, we're almost halfway there. And I am pissed. So I was at that point, I was done. What I should have done was said, hey, I need to go back. But being the people pleaser I am, and sometimes I didn't speak up. I just got mad. And I just followed along, and I'm doing my best and just trying to keep it all together. And I would say probably another couple hundred, 400 feet past that point, we found ourselves on this really skinny trail. So imagine we are on the side of a mountain on a cliff where up this side, up my left side, it's just sheer rock climb, probably 20, 30 feet up. The trail's not very wide, and then it goes straight down on my right. So we have our hiking poles. We have some really nice titanium hiking poles, and they have a loop around your wrist so that if you drop a pole, it's not going to go away from you because it's hooked to you. And so here I am hiking along, and I am I'm struggling. I'm struggling, and I don't even know how this happened. So the right side, like I said, it kind of went right straight down, and you actually couldn't see the bottom because it kind of went down at a little bit of an angle and then straight down. So we're not quite sure what was under there. And so all of a sudden, I find myself in kind of this slow motion fall. And I'm assuming that I clipped my hiking shoe on a rock, and then I just started to go forward. Well, I have a backpack on. It's not real heavy, but I have a backpack. I've got water in my pack and so forth. And it was just the weirdest thing. I heard just silence. I'm not typically one that will react during a situation. I'm not one that will generally scream or anything like that. So all I heard, I didn't hear anything basically. All I could do was feel myself. I started to fall. And as I was going down, it was almost like it was in slow motion. As I was going down, all I could think of was, God, please don't let me fall into that cactus. And I felt myself, my knees went into the stones, the rocks, because it's very rocky soil there. And you're on bedrock and whatever. Um, so my knees hit the floor or hit the ground. My hiking poles went down, and I ended up with my knuckles on on the on the rocks in front of me, and I couldn't stop. And it was like this slow motion. I didn't have the strength to stop myself because the way my poles were wedged into the rocks. And then all I could see was this bush and this cactus on the side of me, and this slow motion fall. And I ended up kind of catching myself on a rock, my forehead on a rock. Not hard, it didn't hurt or anything, but it was the only way I could kind of stop. And then I was stuck there. And, my hands were kind of grasped around the poles, which were lodged in the ground. I see this cactus right next to me that I'm like, oh, please, please don't fall in the cactus because that would not be good. And then all of a sudden, my backpack comes over, the water bottles fall out. I can see them falling, and all I can think of is, oh God, don't lose the water. Don't let that go running down the side of the hill. Um, and I just didn't have the strength to get up. Every muscle ached. I honestly, in that moment, really thought I wasn't going to make it. But at the same time, it was so thankful because I ended up where I did. I didn't fall sideways. I fell straight forward on that little trail. And but at that moment, Chris came back. He didn't hear me. What he heard was this he didn't hear my hiking pole sounds anymore behind him, and he knew something was up. So then he came back and he was able to get me up. We were able to, take a little break and whatever. But I started shaking. And that's when, the fear enveloped me as I'm noticing the sun is really low in the sky. We had gotten a late start because we had sold our house and had to meet with a mortgage person there to be able to sign all the paperwork. So we didn't get out until later in the afternoon, which is unusual for us. And all I could think of was, oh my God, I don't want to be stuck on this mountain. We got to get off this mountain. Because even though we had hiking stuff and whatnot, we weren't prepared to spend we didn't have flashlights and stuff to hike at night. And if you've ever been around Sedona or around the mountains, it's dark and it gets dark very early. And there's no trail lights, there's no city lights. It's dark. And so, here I am. I'm uncontrollably be shaken. I can barely move. Um, and I'm like, we got to get off this mountain. And so Chris found this little shortcut that kind of took us over this ridge and down to the other side, which did shave off some time, but we still had to go a good mile and a half or two back. And so, at this point, I'm mad. I'm just mad. I'm mad at myself. I'm probably mad at him. And um, I was just in this complete state of exhaustion. I could barely move. And even at one point, and I don't tend to get angry real easily, but at one point, it's as I'm walking along, I kept catching my boots on the rocks as I was going over them out of pure exhaustion. I could barely, pick up my feet. And I got so mad, I just whipped a poor little cactus, hit a poor little cactus with my hiking pole. And Chris looks around and he knows that I don't act like this. And he just came back and he's like, he gave me a hug, and I'm still just shaking. This was maybe another, I don't know, half mile into it. And, he's like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I just, um, I didn't believe him in that moment, honestly. I was just mad. I was mad at me. I was mad at him. I was mad at the trail. I was mad at my ankle and my leg and the situation. I was mad at the year that we'd had. And it just kind of all came to a head. That's when that little inner critic starts to chirp in. It brings those fears to the surface. And I'm hearing things like, you've got no business hiking here and in the shape you're in. What are you thinking? You're weak, you're heavy because you've been sitting for a year, you haven't worked out in months, you've been cooped up in the house, and now the sun's going down, and you're going to be stuck, you're not going to make it. And all I can feel is anger and exhaustion, and still uncontrollably shaking. I knew that I was really lucky in that moment. I knew somebody was watching out for me, because um, just a couple inches over, it could have been a whole different story for me. And Chris wouldn't have been able to get to me. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting hike that we had, but we still had to get off the mountain. So we kept going. I know Chris was really worried, but he just gets quiet when he's worried. and he tried to reassure me, but he also knew at the same time I was just so mad. I just didn't want to hear anything. I mean, it's kind of like when you're in an upset state and someone says calm down. Well, normally you don't react well to that, right? So I just didn't talk. I'm just angry. I'm just all I can think of is we got to get off this mountain. Well, we finally did make it off the mountain. It was not easy. The sun was going down. We did finally make it back to the trailhead, and I got as far as I could, and then he brought the car down and picked me up, and we ended up going and having a really nice pizza at Pizza Lisa, which we love, and just kind of chilled. Um, but what was interesting is, the good news is, of course, we're about 9 weeks later now, and it really makes for a good teaching story about how our mind works and how the inner critic takes over. But also the gift in this whole thing, the gift in this whole story for me was I started to reevaluate some things. And you start to look at it and go, did this happen for a reason? Did this happen to get my attention? And what did I learn from this? And what are the gifts in this whole experience that we had? Now, of course, I got over it. We had a couple more hike, we took a day off and then we had a couple more hikes before we came home, which was really great. We got to do some of our normal things, but you know, even even one that is pretty self-aware and knows how to deal with those little thoughts that come into our mind when you're in a real stressful situation or you're in a downward spiral about something or life just gets lifey, those thoughts do come up and those things do come up. And how do you deal with them? Um, and remember that the inner critic is going to play on our fears, right? It's gonna its job is to keep us safe. So if it throws out the fears to you or the what if thinking, it's trying to keep you kind of safely in your lane. But it's interesting to find out that still, after all the work that I do in this area, I still deal with this little inner critic once in a while. But the bigger picture of the thing is this whole event kind of made me think about and reevaluate things just in my life in terms of, okay, am I happy doing what I'm doing? Do I want to change things in my business? Do I want to change things in my personal life in terms of making more time for working out, making more time for doing joyful things, making sure that we're hiking here around in Michigan before we take a big, hiking trip to Sedona or anywhere else. And it kind of got me back to, okay, something's got to change. And I think that was kind of my divine wake up call to say, hey, you're on this path. You just keep going forward, forward, forward. And some of these other things are falling behind or falling to the wayside. And those are important things that shouldn't be in the peripheral. They should be in your everyday. Again, back to, making sure I'm working out, making sure that I'm in good health, making sure that I'm making good choices on how I plan my day and spend my time. And again, now we're past this whole event and it was sounds like a big long time, but it the situation was over a matter of 3 or 4 hours that this whole thing took place. Um, But it did. It's those things in life that kind of make you reevaluate your life and make you look at things a little differently. And the good news is I have the tools and I have the knowledge and I have the learning and training to be able to, when these things come up, these little whisperings come up of, you're weak and who do you think you are? And all those little things that came out to me on the mountain that day, um, I know how to deal with them. But still, they got me. They got me for a little bit. And so, anyway, I just wanted to share this story with you because sometimes I really strongly feel that this actually happened for a reason. I was safe. There was a divine support team looking out for me. I didn't fall off the mountain. But what it did is it kind of brought me back to center, and it kind of brought me back to present moment to say, okay, what's working, what's not, what do I need to change? And what do need to do more of? So anyway, I just wanted to share this mountain story with you because I'm sure that you've probably had moments like that. And when those little disempowering thoughts come up, know that you are worthy, you are strong. That's just a little bit of fear that's coming up to try to keep you safely in your comfort zone. And so take the tools and learn how to use them, learn how to work with your inner critic. It's okay to feel the emotions. Sometimes we need to feel mad, sometimes we need to feel, you know, some of these lower level emotions because it's stuck energy that just needs to get out. And so, um, don't judge it. Don't go into judgment. I needed to feel mad in those moments, and it was okay because it released a lot of energy. Um, Hitting the cactus with my hiking pole released a lot of energy. Poor little cactus. But there's just look at those situations as a gift in terms of what did I learn from it. When you go back and look at it in that light of what did I learn from that situation, you're going to be so much better for it, and you just it's just such a growth opportunity. So don't let the mountains get you, and I hope the story resonated with you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for hanging in here. Bye for now.